Today I'm going to be chatting with Kyle from Hot Shot Secrets and talking about the very first product that Hot Shot Secrets ever released, which was Stiction Eliminator, and also lead that into a bigger conversation about oil additives and what they can do, how they can help an engine. So I'm looking forward to chatting with him about that today. Before we get to it, I want to give a couple of our sponsors some shout outs. The first is Kershaw Knives. They have an exclusive discount code just for Diesel Podcast listeners. Get you 40% off MSRP. Use code TDP40 at kershaw.kaiusa.com. It's a great way to save some money, get some cool gear if you're in the market for a new knife for hunting, fishing, EDC, something around the job site, something around the house. They've definitely got you covered with a bunch of different choices, bunch of different pricing levels. There's a whole bunch of options for different blade shape, blade steel, handle design, different opening mechanisms. So if you're in the market, make sure to head on over to their website and use code TDP40 for 40% off MSRP. Also, if you're like me and have hobbies, outside of diesel trucks, you like to hit the range, hunt, do competitions, things like that. If you go to targetsportsusa.com/dieselpc, Target Sports USA has a really cool ammo membership program. So for $99 a year, you get free shipping whether you order 1 box, 3 boxes, 20 boxes. They have a whole bunch of perks too as far as being a member. You get an instant 8% discount on your order at different times during the year. That discount can go even deeper, and you get notified about that ahead of time. If there's a particular caliber, something you're looking for that is difficult to find locally, you can get an in-stock notification when they get it, so you're first to know before it hits the website. And there's 2 really cool giveaways that you're entered for a chance to be able to win. The first is an all-expense-paid hunting trip to Colorado, so that includes airfare, hotel, accommodations, meals, the fee for the hunt itself, complimentary meat processing, shipping back to you. So that's something that's automatically included in the membership, and that's a chance to be able to win that. Plus, they give away a brand new F-150 every year. So if you're looking to keep some miles off of your diesel truck, build an off-road rig, something like that, it's a great way to have a chance to be able to win that. So just go to targetsportsusa.com/dieselpc. You'll find all the details there. All right, let's get to today's podcast with Kyle from Hot Shot Secrets and talking about Stiction Eliminator and also oil additives. Kyle, we meet again on the Diesel Podcast. I enjoy chatting with you. As always, there's a lot of great information, and I love tackling topics that I think can kind of be missed in diesel. Whether you own trucks, you're really into them. I've been into them for a long time, and there's so much I don't know about different like oils and fluids and fuel and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and explain Hot Shot Secrets, but then also, kind of broader topics that are involving our trucks, so we should know a little bit more about. So welcome back.
Thanks, Patrick. Always love joining you and always have a good chat. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. We were talking a little bit before the podcast about the oil side of trucks. And last time we talked about fuel, which if anyone hasn't caught our most recent episode, definitely go and check that out. But I think just a prevailing thing that sticks out in my head as far as, when I'm going to sit down and chat with somebody, or even feedback I get from a guest, whether I'm talking to somebody about their truck restoration or performance build or their interest in diesel, there's a common thing they all tell me, and that's that they want their truck to last. Whether that's towing, daily driving, or they put a whole bunch of money into a truck and are going to take it to a track and take it to events, want to have fun with it. They want to make it last as long as possible. So you were telling me some really interesting things about like the Huey systems, the 7360s, and then also I think a part that's really overlooked in ownership, I do it, is how clean is my engine, or what can I do internally, or what kind of maintenance schedule can I have to try to eliminate carbon deposits and maybe some other things that over time could potentially create an issue for me.
Yeah, and these diesels are expensive, and people also know that they last a long time, but you got to take care of them, and you take care of these systems. Preventative maintenance pays off in the long run, and those are the guys you see running 400,000, 500,000 miles on these diesel applications. They can go that long, but you got to take care of them. And I think most people tend to start turning to the lubricant side and seeing what kind of additive fixes they can have once they have problems. And or maybe it's somebody who bought a used vehicle or looking to buy a 200,000 mile diesel truck, and what could I possibly be looking for doing that, and what pitfalls do I want to avoid, and how can I treat this so that I can get an extra 200,000 miles out of and get the value out of myself. So Diesels, they're finicky little creatures, but if we take care of them, they take care of us and last quite a while.
What was really kind of interesting, I think it'd be a great point for us to start is, I think of Hot Shot Secrets, I just think of fuel. I think of treating the fuel. And it was interesting how you mentioned that the company started with a different product. And I think that's a great point for us to begin with. And I've got a bunch of questions for you, but I thought that would be great for me to understand more about how Hot Shot Secrets started, what it was addressing, and that'll just open it up to everything. Huey, Common Rail, kind of really, any diesel engine that's out there.
Yeah, it's funny. The company did start with Stiction Eliminator. Just pulled a bottle off here for you. It was the founding of the company. I'll give you a quick little background of where we came from. Chris Gabrelchek, our founder, owner, was a one-man show. He's a tribologist, so he's an oil nerd, and he was coming up with chemicals and greases for big industry to, try to cut down on their maintenance costs and so forth. And this is when the Huey injector was born. International made the engine. Ford came out with the 6 liters and then the 7.3s. And these were Huey injector fed engines. And to put that into layman's terms that people don't know, it's a diesel fuel injector that is oil fed from the engine's oil. So it uses the engine's oil to fire the injector, which was a brilliant idea at the time. Turned out to have a lot of problems with it. And very quickly after those engines were released, they started having injector problems. Really put Ford in a tight spot. They were almost went out of business over it because of all the recalls coming in. They had, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 injector jobs coming in and recall very quickly. And so they reached out to the tribology community, trying to find a lubricant fix to this. And really the market attacked it from the fuel side, trying to figure out why these fuel injectors were gumming up, and started throwing every fuel additive, fuel side cleaner, kind of like what we talked about last time, trying to clean out the fuel injector naturally. Well, Chris invented the Stiction Eliminator formula, submitted that to Ford along with hundreds of other tribologists, and they found that this was the product that fixed their Huey injectors. They tested 9 out of 10 times. 9 out of 10 failing Huey injectors could be restored using Stiction Eliminator. And the trick was to clean them out from the oil side. So, funny tidbit, at the time, once it was about 2 years with Ford to get this product approved and accepted. Chris was a small guy at the time, had 6 kids here in Mount Gilead, Ohio, and spent every penny he had. He was mixing this stuff in a pole barn in his backyard here in the country hills of Ohio, and finally got word that this was the solution for Ford, and he thought he hit it big. And things are slow with OEMs, so by the time they were getting to the point to make a deal to roll it out, they stopped manufacturing the 6 liters and the 7.3s. So he was kind of left high and dry, and he said, well, I got a good product. It's tested and proven by the manufacturer. There's a ton of those trucks out there. I'm just going to take it to market. So he did, and he hustled. He would stalk, travel stops and truck stops and find guys running Huey injector trucks and sell them bottles of Stiction Eliminator at the pump. Side note, the original product he actually called Hot Shot Secret. So a lot of people don't know this is where the name of the company came from.
Okay.
This was during the Katrina disaster when they were running FEMA trailers from Indiana, where they manufacture all the trailers, running them down south. And so all the hot shotters in the country converged and just had all they could eat running FEMA trailers down south to New Orleans. And so it was his small vision at the time that he had a hot shotter's secret to keeping those Huey injected trucks on the road. So that was the original name of the product. Once the company took off and got born, it became the company name. The product was renamed Stiction Eliminator. The rest is kind of history there. But to tie it into what you're saying, that at the end of the day, it's an engine side cleaner. There are other products on the market that clean out the engine. I think it's one of those things that's often overlooked when it comes to a maintenance schedule. A lot of people think, well, I run a good oil, or, I'm always treating my fuel. I don't have a lot of blow by. I change at a good interval. I'm doing all the maintenance that I can do. I'm taking care of this engine. But it is unavoidable. It's just what happens inside of an engine, that oil itself is a hydrocarbon. And as you introduce acids to it, which happens naturally, and you put loads on the oil, you start to burn off the hydro side of that, no matter what oil you're using. So what happens to that hydrocarbon is it becomes a carbon deposit, and when the hydro burns off. So every engine is creating carbon deposits inside the engine. And it's this kind of looks like burnt varnish. You may have seen when an engine gets torn down, and once everything kind of gets washed away, you kind of see like the dark staining of the engine, if you will, the internals.
Yeah.
And all that is the leftover carbon from oil that has broken down and left that deposit behind. And regardless of what you're using, that's taking a detriment to the engine and robbing you of power and everything else. So it's very important, no matter how good you are in your maintenance, to make sure that you're adding a cleaning on the oil side, just like we've talked about on the fuel side.
What happens when does that when do the carbon deposits become too much? Or what, I know you're traveling all over the country. You have tons of diesel shops that you work with, tons of retailers that are out there, engine builders, racers, things like that are doing their yearly teardowns and everything. What would somebody see when issues start to arise with carbon deposits, that when they're listening to us and jumping into this conversation, they think, okay, this is something I want to avoid. I plan on keeping this truck for a long time. What sort of issues would pop up?
Well, it's a slow thing, which is like the worst part of it. So it's kind of like when we talked on the fuel side, people that aren't treating the fuel say, well, I'm not having a problem. I don't see a problem. Like a lot of these are slow to build. So often when somebody's having a larger problem with stiction, and even on a non-HEUI injected engine, just a standard diesel or even a gas application for that matter, it's affecting the oil flow of the engine, and then any type of component. And this is why HEUI injectors are so susceptible to it. Once it starts gumming up on the springs and everything that's a functioning part, well, now you're taking back the performance of all these aspects. So your oil flow is not reaching everywhere; it's slowing down, as compared to, say, a brand new engine that is honed and bored out to have all the fuel or all the oil flow reach everywhere cleanly and cool everything, if you will, cool and clean everything. So time frame, it's tough to say. Every single engine's different. Even the same make model coming off the assembly line are different. The type of oil you're using plays a big part into that. If you're using like a Group 2 conventional oil, the carbon chain in a Group 2 is not as strong. It breaks down easier, so you're going to have more deposits than if you're using a Group 3 synthetic, or some of we have a Group 4 polyalpha olefins, which I think we've talked about oil before. So the higher grade oil you go with reduces the shearing of the oil and the deposit formation, but it's completely unavoidable to completely knock out entirely. It's just a byproduct of the way the engine functions. So time frame, we've seen engine teardowns on brand new engines from a brand new engine with as low as 20,000 miles on it that have significant deposits in them in a 20,000 mile old engine. So it starts to develop quickly. Some are faster than others. The dirtier the engine, the more blow by you have. So the more contaminants that you're getting, the more soot you're pushing past the ring into the oil system, compounds the problem. So it's kind of it's almost a snowball effect too. So it's That's why it's always best to stay on the front side of it on preventive, because by the time you start to see it and feel it, it's already compounding, and you want to take care of it before you notice it. And that's just a hard thing for people to do because they don't feel or see the problem right away, and they don't often get to it once it's really compounded. Now, we can help clean them even when it's a bad problem, but it's always better to do that before you get there. And I'll tell you, one thing I hear often too is like, we all get into our own bubbles of our vehicles, and I know how my truck feels, and it's kind of funny. It's like you get real in tune to something not feeling right, or maybe being a little more sluggish than it used to. And so you being the own driver and owner of your vehicle, and really being able to feel the differences and stuff. The irony to that is we also get complacent to that too. We've had a lot of people call us when a friend finds a problem with their vehicle because they're so used to it. All of a sudden, a buddy jumps in the truck to run it up the block or something, and he comes back and says, "Man, it felt a little sluggish out of the gate." And you as a driver's like, "Really?" And you're just used to it. So sometimes we know intricately every single aspect, and some of the things we just get used to, and we don't have anything to compare it to and know that there's an issue. So again, preventative is the way to go. Certainly on that used vehicle type of application we talked about. I don't care if I buy a used diesel that's got 30,000, 50,000, 200,000. I don't know what the previous guy did. I don't care if I've got maintenance records. It is the best time to clean the slate, do a deep clean, and then start preventing from there forward, whether it's new or certainly a used application that you're just starting with.
Are carbon deposits worse on newer vehicles, the DPF EGR equipped trucks compared to the older ones?
That's an excellent question, Patrick. It's a yes and a no, for different reasons. Basically, they all are going to have the problems. They try to make the new systems more efficient. You should have less blow-by on the new systems, which contaminate the oil less, which then prevents the oil from breaking down earlier. So theoretically, they shouldn't have as much of deposit formation in the newer engines just from the efficiency. The problem is, man, we've talked about these DPFs and how poor those systems and technology are. They tend to compound what they're trying to fix too. So it's a problem for new, old, you name it. You're always going to have deposit issues. Now, how you treat them, you have a couple options. Like there are a couple ways to doing this. The industry for a long time has used harsh solvents to clean out the engine, including these carbon deposits. And it is a effective way of cleaning out the deposits. It's a harsh abrasive solvent that basically like a very deep cleaner. Like, if you're going to wash a white shirt, you might throw some, laundry detergent in there. But if you really need to get some, now you throw the bleach in, So there's products out there that are deep cleans to the engine. And these are often the products that you've seen that you got to pour in, and they smoke everything out, and then you have to dump the oil and put fresh oil in.
Yeah.
And that's because it's such a contaminating product that it dries everything out. It dries any of your bushings out, your gaskets. It's harmful to the engine while you're cleaning. Those products are very popular. They sell a lot of them. People have used them for many years. They do a pretty good job of cleaning out, but it's at what cost and how you do it. We have chosen a different route, and this is partially from the original formula when it was developed for the Huey injector and the tiny little tolerance of getting your oil flow up to the tolerance of the fuel injector and getting it clean. But when you spread that to the entire engine of cleaning, we do it a different way. The cleaners that we use in a Stiction Eliminator product is It's a group 5. It's a group 5 ester, which esters are all the really good stuff. That's the stuff that our lab guys get to play with, and the really high-end stuff that can bring oil to a different level and have different functionality of the different esters. Well, one of the esters that we use in the Stiction Eliminator is the best engine cleaner you can get. And here's the difference to it. Rather than using a harsh abrasive solvent that is scraping off any of the varnish buildup, and then what happens is it basically gets picked up in your oil filter, any of the varnish leftover, but does it in it's like using like alcohol. It dries everything out while it cleans. Instead, the esters we use actually go in with fresh oil. We put it in at the front end of the interval. You add the product with fresh oil, and it stays in the whole time. It actually improves the oil. All this is made of is high-end Group 4 PAO, polyalpha olefin synthetics, and Group 5 esters. So any oil you add it to, you're improving that oil. It's all the good stuff we add to a really high-end oil. So you can add it to any oil you want, really cheap low-end oil, and improve that oil. But what it's actually doing on the cleaning side is that ester is finding those carbon deposits, and as I mentioned, they're a hydrocarbon. It's adding the hydro back to them, basically. So rather than scrubbing it off with a solvent, we're rehydrating that old carbon deposit and turning it back to a liquid form. So this happens over time too. So a lot of people that first try the product, they might put it in, and we've even gotten customer service calls saying, hey, I just tried your Stiction Eliminator product and it's not doing anything. Or even worse, I feel like my truck's running worse today. And so we'll have to ask, well, when did you use it? What was the treatment rate? And it turns out they're just using it yesterday. And we say, oh, go drive it like you stole it. Run it for a while, because that we're rehydrating those old carbon deposits back to a liquid form. Doesn't happen immediately. It happens over time, and then it turns out a liquid form, lifts off all the metal, and you've got brand new looking internal components of the engine. And Patrick, I love my dumb analogies. Here's one I use for this one. It's kind of like if you spilled a soda pop on the soda pop, Coke, whatever it says, on the table here, and let it dry, and you've got this sticky leftover substance on it. Let's say that's your engine internal. Well, you can't get in there to scrub it, so you're going to have to do it with lubricant, some sort put in there. Well, imagine if we couldn't touch it, but I had a hot pot of water, and I kept pouring it over that sticky pop that had dried, and it slowly melts it away back into a liquid form. It's rehydrating it to the point where it's gone off the surface. And now that old carbon is actually a liquid form in the oil. Some of it gets picked up in the oil filter, but then once you're done with that oil interval, after it cleans throughout the whole interval that you've had it added to the oil, when you dump that oil, especially on the first time cleaning, especially if it's one of those 200,000 mile diesels that you just bought and you did the first cleaning of and it hadn't been cleaned for its life, the oil that comes out is probably the nastiest oil you'll ever see, but it's 200,000 miles of carbon buildup that's all now reliquefied in the oil, and it comes out with your oil change. And now you have clean internals.
Common question we get from you guys a lot is, hey, I need a diesel engine. I either, I can't wait this long to get one, or normal place I get stuff from it just takes too long, or they don't have the parts in it that I need. Maybe my truck's not stock, or I tow heavy with it. I don't want to go back with just a stock engine. DFC Diesel is a sponsor of the podcast. We worked with them, hand in hand on doing episodes, answering technical questions. They have a complete lineup of Cummins, Duramax, and Power Stroke remanufactured engines that are set to a standard of ISO 9001 2015 standards, which is a huge deal in the aftermarket. And there's certain levels of quality testing, validation that are required for that. So when you get one of those engines, the type of quality that's built behind it, with an industry-leading warranty that's really comprehensive. And the other thing with that is, sometimes the options that are out there, it's a basic OEM engine. You want a little bit more. You don't want to have the same failure again. So there's a bunch of different series of engines that they have, from core, street tow haul, and also the Speed of Air series, which we've covered on the podcast before. There's a lot of really cool benefits to it. And if you have questions about that, reach out to them. If you don't know the type of engine that you're looking for, if you go to dfcdiesel.com, there's a ton of info there. You can send an email or you can reach out to them. Also, they're working with Speed of Air pistons, which it's the only piston that pays for itself. And there's a lot of really cool technology behind it. So you can add that into your build and be able to get better fuel economy, increase power, increase torque, and better engine life out of it. Some of the most common engine applications or series of engines that they have with that lead time, a lot of them are in stock or they have really short lead times. So you can check your favorite retailer or go to dfcdiesel.com, check them out, see what's in stock, see what you can get. If you have questions, maybe you want to do something that's outside of the normal series of engines, they have tons of choices for rods, cranks, pistons, valve train upgrades, tons of different things. So if you're in the market, definitely make sure and head on over and check them out. It's really interesting because I've seen those pictures and those kind of videos where people, not that they've done a cleaning or it has anything to do with what we're talking about, but like when they have those really kind of gross oil changes where something failed, something happened, and you start to see it. And there's a lot of episodes or a lot of different engine builders and conversations I've had over the years. And when you see, when they do their teardowns, they do their inspections and how clean things look, or just, I always think why, or how did they do that? And then I think it's just something I know I've overlooked. It's just, I guess it's really interesting when I think of being a consumer, I think of being a truck owner, and these are mass-produced vehicles, how much we overlook, how much I overlook, that I think through these types of conversations and through education, just learning about different stuff, I think, man, I should have been doing this for a long time. Or like the Stiction Eliminator. I had mentioned a little bit before the podcast, whenever I hear the word Stiction, it's usually a 7.3 or 6-liter guy that is talking about it, and you're like, yeah, I'll talk to a guy who owns a shop, and he's like, oh, it's Cummins, I don't need a Stiction Eliminator. And just how we kind of think about it is really interesting.
It's always been, and to your point there, you don't see it. Like you said, you only get to see this stuff when you tear an engine down. So it's very rare anybody ever gets to see these internals. We have a great story of some good customers. Well, one good customer of ours that's a big fan of our products, and he and his brother own a trucking business, a hot shot business, and they buy trucks every few years. Well, years back, they bought 2 of the exact same model trucks. I believe they were Fords, Power Strokes, and for the 2 owners of the company. And one of them, in his personal truck, religiously used hot shots. So he used our two-step. So he would run Stiction Eliminator in one oil change, and then run FR3 in the next couple, and then switch back for another cleaning. And for the life of it, and at I think it was 220,000 miles, they did a full engine teardown. They were getting new trucks, so they were going to start building these trucks into some fun stuff. And they tore down the engines. It was the best case study we've ever had, because we've never had like a perfect like A/B testing.
Yeah.
And we've got pictures. Maybe I can share with you that we can add to your thumbnail or something of these 2 engines side by side. And the one that was, and he was running good oil. It was like he was running I believe it was Schaefer's. It was a quality oil. It wasn't like he was running some junk oil, both of them. And the untreated oil that was never seen Stiction Eliminator engine literally looked like what the inside of a diesel engine looks like when you usually tear it down. It's black. There's all this muck in there, and it's black, and you wash it down as best you can, but you see all these carbon deposits. The other engine at 220,000 miles, I kid you not, looked like it was just a new build from the factory. I mean, it was brand new looking internals. And we knew that these 2 vehicles had very similar lives, just minus the product. So we've been trying to do some more longer term testing, because again, this is the problem with this, is it takes a while to see the problem. So it also, for us testing, we've got some trucks out there that I think we're in year 3 of the testing. And so we want to do like a 5-year test on it. So tear these engines down in a couple of years and look. So it's just not something that we can test over a weekend, that to show visually to people, the difference in the two. But to your other point about how you do hear about this product with the HUE injector guys, I think we did a good job of marketing this product to those guys because it was a product made for that application ideally. But at the end of the day, this is the carbon deposits and the other issues that you see with the amount of soot that we push by happens in every diesel engine. And again, you have options like harsh abrasive solvents. But what I'd like to tell people is if you can imagine how tight a tolerances of a HUE injector and he gets up and cleans that, imagine what it's doing to the rest of the engine where that oil's flowing freely. And the more that this oil flows with the additive in it to touch all the internals, it's the more it's kind of like pouring that hot water over the dried cola. It's rehydrating everything to get all those internals clean. So yeah, it's a product for and it's a job to do. It's a maintenance job to do with every engine. And I'm not just limiting this to diesels. I gasoline engines and these products can be used in gas, diesel, lawnmowers, small equipment, motorcycles, UTVs. If it is an engine, it is burning hydrocarbons, period. And so any engine can benefit from a good oil side cleaning.
Can you walk me through how I would do it? Like, I called you guys up and said, hey, I want to clean my engine. Is there, the different products, how I use them, different oil changes? How does that work?
Sure. So we try to tie it up in a simple two-step process. So first things first is our Stiction Eliminator, and it's followed up by our FR3, which our FR3 is a whole nother episode of conversation on what's in this with our nanocarbon technology. But most importantly, the Stiction Eliminator is an engine restorative plus FR3 nano lubricant. So this product is already in here. So you're getting all the benefit of FR3 when you run Stiction Eliminator. The difference in the Stiction Eliminator formula is those extra group 4 and group 5 esters that do the really heavy load of the cleaning. So you want to run Stiction Eliminator first. This does your deep clean. An initial clean out, we recommend 4 ounces per quart of oil. So you're going to displace 4 ounces per quart of oil and add it with fresh oil, and you leave it in there for the entire interval. The longer it's in there, the better. Sometimes we get people to ask us, should I add it right before I have to change oil? No, that's for the solvent stuff. We want this in there the longer. I kind of say it's kind of like another bad analogy. It's like when you're washing your clothes in the washing machine, do you add the detergent halfway through? It's like, no, put it in at the very beginning so it has the whole cycle to clean it out. So the longer it's in there, the better. And you actually feel the gain of it as it cleans the longer you go and work it through. Once it's cleaned out, then for the next couple oil changes, we recommend just using our FR3 added to the oil. This is the nano lubricant side that helps out with the oil. It also has cleaning properties to it, not as robust as the Stiction Eliminator, but it's a more cost-effective way to maintain that clean. And so 2 to 3 oil changes with FR3 added, then we go back to Stiction Eliminator for periodic cleaning, and then we do half the dosage at that point, 2 ounces per quart. If you're starting with a brand new engine, if you bought a brand new truck, there's no reason to even use the more expensive product, Stiction Eliminator, out of the gate. You can just start with FR3 and then maybe your third oil change. You'll be up to that 20,000 mile, 30,000 miles where carbon deposits are starting to get there. It's a good time to start the cleaning. And the example of buying the used 200 plus thousand mile diesel, I'm going to a heavy dose of Stiction Eliminator out of the gate right away. As soon as I land that thing on my driveway, it's the first thing I'm doing is changing that oil and putting some of this in there to clean out whatever the last guy did or didn't do and start with that engine having fresh internals.
That's where it's just such an unknown, and it's more of a trend that I see, like especially with 7.3s. I've had some other conversations with other companies, tuners, enthusiasts that are out there that are going back to a 99 to 03 7.3, and that truck's been on the road for 20 plus years. So
Yep.
How many owners did it go through? How was it maintenanced or not maintenanced? And I think that's just one of the biggest concerns that I see with people that are getting into diesel. Maybe they don't want the new truck, they don't want the payment, They don't want the interest rate on it. They don't want to spend that kind of money. So they're looking towards something a little bit older. They can do a bit more too. They have, more aftermarket support, and usually they don't do it right away. They think, okay, I want to, drive this truck for a couple of years, enjoy it,
Right.
then come up with this plan. But I don't want to have to build an engine or buy an engine or short block or long block right away, or
Right.
tons of different things. So how can I try to avoid it? So I think
Well,
that
and you know what else is unique to that, Patrick, is that now specifically the Huey injector guys, you asked earlier kind of, the detriments you see when this carbon buildup happens. There's a lot there. The Huey injectors certainly feel it 100 times worse, because now we're not just affecting the oil flow of the engine internals, but we're affecting the fuel side of it. So I'll tell you a key thing out there. A lot of people want to stay away from these 6 liters and 7.3s that are older like that, but there are some bargains out there on these trucks. Sometimes it's some other guy's problem and he doesn't know any better. And don't get me wrong, they do have injector issues and you can only prevent them for so long. But sometimes these guys just have never cleaned out the injectors, and you would be amazed at how quickly you can restore some of these pretty cheaply selling 7.3s and 6 liters, because people think they've got injectors that are beyond saving. And that initial clean out, man, the detriment you see on the Huey injector side to stiction buildup is affecting the spray pattern of the injector itself. It's affecting the way the injector is released on the oil side. And that's what we're always trying to clean up with the fuel additives, is making sure we have that precise spray pattern that's hitting the perfect sweet spot of the piston on every stroke. And you start adjusting that a little bit, or you gum up the spray pattern even a little bit, and you suddenly have a sluggish turd, that just isn't moving, can't get out of its own way, won't tow anything. You think the engine's worn to all be, but it turns out it might just have a gummed up injectors that can be cleaned out pretty easily. So I always look for those gems. When somebody tells me, oh, there's no beat up 7.3, I'm kind of like, how beat up really is it? Or does it just need some injector cleaning,
what's I'm sure you see this a ton more than I do, but it's kind of a bigger topic, or kind of a reflection, is I've learned how much of the market is really kind of built around, I think, the life cycle. Not even the life cycle. It's like the ownership cycle of a truck. Like, I don't know how long the average person keeps a truck. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, something like that. And whether it's how the engine's built, how the transmission's built, the kind of filters that are used, whatever it might be, it's designed for this kind of shorter period of time. But in the part of the industry we're in, we come across those enthusiasts, or maybe we're them, themselves, is we're thinking about owning this truck for 10 years or 15 or 20 plus, or maybe it's our dream truck. And how much or where these type of products really fit into that long-term ownership plan that we have, versus kind of the short-term, this truck's built to last a warranty period. Then after that, just kind of wait and see. But that's what I really like, because that's where my mind is I want to keep it for as long as I can. Or if I'm out there searching on Marketplace and Craigslist and Auto Trader, I'm looking for a very specific year truck, very specific color, very specific engine transmission combination, because I want to have that till I can't drive anymore. And how can I protect that investment and make it last?
Well, and more and more people are going down that road, obviously, and I think it's just tough when you can't see the problem. You sometimes can't feel the problem, but I guarantee you every engine is dealing with these issues. It's just to what extent it is. Now, we've got a lot of history starting with the Huey injectors, and then as we really branched to use these engine side cleaning products on other applications, there's more benefit to it, particularly in the diesel world, where we have certain issues like turbos. Turbos are a big thing. Like the turbo bearing in the middle of that, it's about the size of your thumbnail. And that turbo bearing, when you shut down the engine, could be upwards of 1,000 degrees plus. Like, we're talking serious hot. And so, especially when the older trucks that didn't have some of the new technology that helps cool that a little bit during shutdown, that bearing stops, that turbo stops, and it sits there and cooks and sizzles in that little thimble full of oil. And what do you think happens? You're burning off the hydro side of that oil, and you're leaving a carbon deposit, and that carbon starts to coat that bearing, and now you start to have detriment to your turbo, and which is feeding now the air side of the engine. And so your oil pump is lubricated through the oil. Well, it gets varnish buildup inside the oil pump, and to keep all these functioning components all in top shape and working at premium efficiency results in longevity of the vehicle. So it's unfortunately one of those things that each one of these things play a part in robbing you of performance, but they do it at such a slow rate that often people don't see the problem until it's really built up. Now, what's unique to this, and I'll kind of take this outside of the diesel podcast for a second, we're seeing a huge run of this now on the gas side, because the market is now switching to so many of these, small engine turbo vehicles for efficiency standards. And what do you think's happening? We're seeing the same issues, because now people are sometimes driving. We talk about people driving their diesel for the first time. There's a lot of people that are driving a turboed vehicle for the first time, because there's these affordable, small engine turbos out there. They have the same problems the diesels have always had, with the turbo bearings, with the cool down time, with cooking oil and creating more carbon deposits. And it's like, we know this story. So it's getting the mentality of understanding that it's a different system than you're used to. It's problematic unless you take care of it, but it's very easy to take care of. It's very easy to have preventative maintenance to do that, with products like this.
It's really interesting that you mentioned that, because it was one of the things that I've thought about when you see like Ford and Toyota and GM with these turbo engines. One of the first thoughts I had, besides they're making pretty good torque numbers for a gas engine, was, oh, you're gonna see a whole new set of maintenance things, with that turbo that you got, that you maybe weren't used to on your 5.4 or whatever 5.7, whatever type of V8 gas engine that it was. So that's really interesting that you bring it up. But I think it's a topic it's overlooked a lot. Maybe not with the 7.3 and the 6-liter guys, but like I said, the word Stiction, I haven't heard a lot from Cummins or Duramax owners. But the way that you explained it and what's going on,
they all got it.
Whether it's a diesel or a lawnmower, gas car, truck, or or whatever it is. It's something that's out there, and it's part of that, I think, bigger maintenance schedule that we've talked about over the years with, we even went through transmission fluid and, basically every fluid that's in a truck, we've pretty much gone through, and just taking that complete approach to trying to make these things last.
Yeah, and putting it that way, it makes me almost think it's almost more important for the Cummins and the Duramax guys to be on top of this, because like we said, it slowly builds up. It's the Huey injectors that see it first, because it's affecting that fuel flow. So they see and feel it first and feel that they have a problem. Well, that same buildup is happening in the Cummins and the Power Strokes too. It's just not affecting the fuel side system, so it's harder to see and feel that you have the problem. But trust me, it's there. It's unavoidable. It's what happens to oil in an engine.
I don't want to put you on the spot with your schedule, but we had a ton of comments on our last episode. We always get a lot of feedback. I see it especially on YouTube whenever we chat. And a lot of times people have questions that I didn't ask you, or they think of a whole new topic. And I know it's probably hard to say, hey, call Hot Shot Secret and ask for Kyle because you're so busy. But where are you going to be
I take
over
calls.
the summer?
You can call anytime.
Where are you going to be over the summer if somebody is going to be in an event or stop by someplace and maybe they can't chat with you direct, but maybe there's someone else they can ask, but they want to talk with you guys in person. They want to ask questions.
Well, first of all, we love interacting with the customers, with our dealers. That's what drives us here. It's the point of our R&D. It's how we develop new products. It's how we find problems out there so we can develop products to fix it. So, first of all, we have an 800 number. You can call anytime, and we have tribologists on staff, diesel techs on staff here. We love to help out solving problems regardless of what they are, whether there are products that can help you or not. Because keeping our ear to the streets, as I like to say, helps us spot oncoming issues and stuff for product development. So you can always call us. I don't have our 800 number memorized, but it's out there. You can go to our website, hotshotsecret.com, and our number's there. You can also send emails through the website, social media, we respond to. If you want to see us out in the field, that's where I'm at usually. I think I'm about to hit the road for 18 out of the next 20 weeks. I'll be on the road. So I'll be all over the country for the next 3 months if you want to find me. But, we sponsor a lot of diesel drag racing, sled pulling. We do the NHRDA, Outlaw Diesel Super Series, NTPA truck and tractor pulling. We're into a lot of radial, gas racing, you name it. Doing more and more trucking shows and class 6 to 8 stuff, more agriculture type of stuff, the trade show stuff, obviously like SEMA, PRI, you name it, we're out there. If you follow our social media, you'll kind of see our schedule that gets promoted. But I encourage you, if you ever have questions and you see us out in the field, that's why we're out there. It costs us a lot of money as a manufacturer. Not a lot of manufacturers go out there all that much. A lot of, especially in the lubricant world, for whatever reason, I don't know why. I don't know if people are hiding or what. I don't ever really get it. But often they'll send, and I love our dealers. Don't get me wrong, but you'll see dealers out there representing the manufacturer, and I love and we support all our dealers that have their own sled pulls and races, and I sponsor a lot of these guys that have race trucks and race shops, or just standard old performance or maintenance shops. And they might have vendor booths out there. But Hot Shot Secret, we actually have the manufacturer out in the field to answer questions, and that's our primary reason being out there. We sell our products really cheap, always on discount out there. We do free samples all the time, so it costs us a lot of money. It's not really a money-making venture for us. It's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is an interaction. So if we highly encourage, if anybody ever has questions, just wants to chat, if you see a Hot Shots vendor booth anywhere, stop by. We got really knowledgeable people. I'm usually there. You can always find me. And we want to chat about your lubricant plans in your game and what's going on with your truck and things you're seeing, and maybe something we can help out with. And if not, maybe something we can learn. And I bring that stuff back to R&D, and R&D works on it. And then it's really great. I actually have a really cool story about a guy I met at NTPA tractor pull, and saw him there for a couple of years in a row. And he stopped by the booth, and we'd have a good half-hour conversation every time, and just lubricant nerd stuff. Guy likes the lubricants, and he brought a problem to us, and I brought it back to R&D, and I was happy that in a 1-year turnaround, when I went back to the pull, I knew I'd see him there, and I had a new product it was pre-release product that I got to put in his hands to test on his agriculture equipment, and now that product's coming out very soon here. So it feeds us. So we like to have an open door policy with all of our customers, and anybody out there that has any lubricant questions. Education to us is education to them, and it makes our gerbil wheel turn here.
Very cool. I appreciate your time today chatting with me, Kyle, dropping some more knowledge on me, some things I can learn. I definitely look forward to maybe catching up with you this summer. We got some cool ideas we were chatting about last time to maybe be able to connect maybe at some of these races and some of these events. So it's always great to chat with you.
Yeah, Patrick. Thanks, man. Always love coming on, man.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to Kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code TDP40. You get 40% off MSRP. So if you're in the market for a new knife for hunting, fishing, EDC, around the job site, around the house, they've definitely got you covered with a bunch of different pricing levels, options for blade steel, blade shape, different opening mechanisms, different handle designs, handle shapes. We really appreciate them offering that discount code just for Diesel Podcast listeners. So head on over to their website, use that code if you're in the market. Also, if you're into other hobbies besides diesel trucks, like to do competition shooting, hit the range, hunting, things like that, Target Sports USA, they've got a really cool ammo membership program. So if you go to targetsportsusa.com/dieselpc, and it's $99 a year, and for that $99, you get free shipping on any order, whether it's 1 box, 3 boxes, 10 boxes. If you're out there, buying things in those kind of smaller quantities, how quickly shipping can add up on there. So it's really easy to be able to make that $99 up if you're, getting different qualities, different or quantities, different calibers, things like that. You get an instant 8% discount on any order. Different times during the year, they have promotions where that discount can be even deeper. So it's applied automatically, when you check out. And also, as far as being an ammo member, you also get entered for a chance to win 2 really cool giveaways that they do. The first is an all expense paid hunting trip to Colorado. That includes airfare, lodging, meals, the fee for the hunt itself, complimentary meat processing, shipping back to you. So it's a great way to have an opportunity to win a once-in-a-lifetime hunting trip. Plus, you're also entered for a chance to win a free F-150 that they give away every year. So it's a great way to be able to have a chance to get some freebies. If you go to targetsportsusa.com/dieselpc, you'll find all the details there. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters: Tyler Loewen at 23 Diesel, CUTTERUP Rob, J Cole, Colby, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who subscribe on YouTube and podcast apps, follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 8 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you want to hear in 2024. Until next time, keep the shiny side up.